Roaring through southern continents, Titanosaur was the biggest dino that ever walked the Earth. Hi, it's me, and welcome to Paleologic, where we bring you new episodes every week on the greatest creatures that ever lived. Among the last of the giant sauropods, Titanosaur was the ultimate giant. Sauropods were the longest dinosaurs known to have ever existed. Their next of kin included the similarly long-necked Argentinosaurus and the massive, although slightly shorter, Diplodocus. But Titanosaur takes the cake for being the longest dinosaur ever discovered, with some species stretching over 40 meters long. That's longer than a blue whale, the largest animal on Earth today. The remains of titanosaurs were first discovered in the 19th century in what is now Brazil and Argentina. But because the bones were so massive, paleontologists weren't able to lift them to study them. It would take another century and the development of new technologies before the fossil record could be properly uncovered. And even then, it took dozens of expeditions to collect all of the pieces from different parts of the continent. In the 1980s, fossils were found in both Patagonia and the Sahara Desert, connecting the dots between the two regions. So far, 12 species of titanosaurs have been identified, with several more possibly awaiting discovery. One species, Titanosaur incertus, was named the world's largest dinosaur in 2020, after re-examination of its bones revealed it to be even longer than previously thought. While the longest individuals could reach lengths of up to 46.6 meters, most titanosaurs averaged around 37 meters long when fully grown. That's almost twice the length of a school bus, and they weighed about 65 tons, which is heavier than 3 African elephants stacked on top of each other. With a neck taller than a giraffe and a body larger than a walrus, there wasn't anything that could easily take down a fully grown titanosaur. So they didn't need weapons like horns or claws to defend themselves. They were perfectly safe in their massive bulk. But don't get the wrong idea. Titanosaurs weren't invincible. Even though they were huge, they still had to eat and drink, and while they were doing those things, they were vulnerable to attack. Titanosaurs were mostly herbivores, probably eating around 400 kilograms of food per day, and they likely used their long necks to reach high into the trees to eat tasty plants that no other herbivores could access. With such an unusual diet, titanosaurs might have actually helped shape the landscape. Forests had to grow tall to accommodate their enormous appetites. But these dinosaurs also trampled and destroyed whole areas of vegetation as they moved through the land. So even though titanosaurs were plant eaters, they had just as destructive a force on the environment as any carnivore. These supersized herbivores are thought to have roamed in herds, similar to modern-day elephants. Scientists believe this because some fossil sites contain dozens of titanosaur footprints, and because large animals tend to travel in groups for safety in numbers. For example, today, blue whales travel in pods ranging from 5 to 20 members, while elephants typically travel in herds of about 15. Herds of titanosaurs may have looked very similar to modern-day herds of elephants, except for one major difference: height. The average elephant is about 3.3 meters tall at the shoulder, but if you stacked 3 of them up, they would still only reach about half the height of a titanosaur's torso. Imagine trying to fight off a predator while surrounded by a herd of 30-meter-tall dinosaurs. There's nowhere to hide. What's more, the sheer number of titanosaurs roaming the Earth would have created a massive amount of manure. Like today's megafauna, they would have had to poop out 100 kilograms of dung every single day. So the ground would have been absolutely filthy, but not in a gross way, in a prehistoric kind of way. It's also interesting to note that the age of titanosaurs roughly coincides with the latest Cretaceous period, a time when Earth's temperature was rising significantly, leading to a warmer and wetter climate. This was great for the growth of lush vegetation and the dinosaurs who ate them. And as more plants grew, more dinosaurs could be supported, and the ecosystem thrived. A warm climate may have also allowed titanosaurs to grow so large. As long as there was plenty of food to go around, they could keep growing without running out of resources. Today, scientists know that an increase in temperature can lead to gigantism in animals like salamanders. So it's possible that the same forces caused titanosaurs to grow bigger and bigger. But how exactly do you become the world's largest dinosaur? Well, to answer that question, scientists turn to the laws of physics. Size isn't just determined by genetics, but also by the structure of the animal's body. The skeletal system has to support the overall mass and allow the animal to move around. In order to get bigger, animals have to increase the cross-sectional area of their skeletons to keep their bodies upright. This is why the bones of adult dinosaurs are much thicker than the bones of their hatchlings. As animals get bigger, their bones get chunkier. Paleontologists studying Titanosaur fossils have noted that their leg bones were incredibly thick, which makes sense given their enormous weight. But they've also noticed something else. Their spines were even thicker than expected. This suggests that titanosaurs didn't just get bigger by growing longer, they also got significantly taller. Some researchers think this is evidence that titanosaurs had to support themselves in an upright position, rather than sprawling out like most lizards do today. If that's true, it would make them more closely related to birds than other dinosaurs. However, this idea is still debated among experts. For example, bird-like posture has been observed in other sauropods like Diplodocus, but not in titanosaur fossils. On the other hand, some researchers argue that since titanosaurs were so tall, it made more sense for them to hold themselves upright to see over tall plants and spot approaching predators. So far, titanosaurs are the largest animals that have ever lived on land. No other species comes close to matching their extreme size. While scientists continue to uncover new fossils and learn more about the past, it's unlikely that anything will ever come close to besting these giants. The closest contender would be the Argentine Antarctarctonyx shackletoni, a relative of Ankylosaurus that lived in Antarctica during the late Cretaceous. It was only about 25% smaller than the biggest titanosaurs. But even that is a weak comparison. In fact, to this day, scientists debate just how big these giants really grew. Estimates vary depending on who you ask. But one thing is certain, nothing has ever matched their scale. The largest dinosaur that ever lived was a sauropod named Patagotitan, nicknamed Patago. It was discovered in 2013 in Patagonia, Chile. The fossil was so complete that scientists were able to determine the dinosaur's exact height and length. Patagotitan stood 5.8 meters tall and measured 37.2 meters long. That's nearly the size of Titanosaur. But there is one crucial difference. Patagotitan was completely different. When scientists compared the two dinosaurs, they realized that the only reason titanosaurs were bigger was because of their long tails. Titanosaurs had tails that could stretch over 10 meters long, while the tail of a Patagotitan was relatively small at less than 2 meters. So which one is better? Is it cooler to be long, or is it better to be tall? You decide. One thing's for sure though, if these two giants ever met, it would have been quite the sight. Can you imagine seeing a 37-meter-long, 5.8-meter-tall dinosaur roaming through the jungle? Let us know your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our other videos. Thanks for coming along on this journey through time. I'll see you later.